Is it time to finally start the conversation about moving on from Ray Anderson as the Arizona State Sun Devils athletic director? That's what we're here to talk about today on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Remember that the Locked On Sun Devils podcast is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you would like to check us out in a visual platform, but make sure that you hit that subscribe button wherever you do get your podcast. Let's jump right into today's conversation, guys. No holding back. It's an important conversation at this point in time. Ray Anderson, the athletic director for the Arizona State Sun Devils, is in a lot of hot water. I mean, he has been for quite a while now, but things are starting to really get out of hand here for the Arizona State Sun Devils athletic director, as the team is dealing with just an absolute brutal loss to their coaching staff. This time hitting the Arizona State Sun Devils softball team in the form of head coach Trisha Ford moving on from the program and headed down to College Station to be the new head coach for the Texas A&M Aggies. This is just devastating, to put it politely. Arizona State was having some really, really good success under Trisha Ford. They had not had a losing season under her stint here. Arizona State was just in the NCAA Super Regionals, and since 2017, they have made the postseason every year except 2020, where it got suspended because of COVID stuff. I mean, other than that, a winning record every single year, a World Series bracket appearance, made it to the Super Regionals this past year. I mean, Trisha Ford had really developed some very, very wild good success with the program. And this was just a really important time for Arizona State Sun Devils softball to continue making a name for itself, because the rest of the programs had been so subpar. The football program has not been great. It has been average. The basketball program has underachieved. The baseball program was going through a transitional period this year. The volleyball program has been very up and down, and more down than up recently. So when you're looking at those five sports in particular, let's be honest, we don't talk enough about college softball, and I am absolutely guilty of that. But college softball is a lot of fun, and I think that it's really got to be up there with football and basketball when it comes to the most exciting sports in college. As I think that softball does have an edge over college baseball, and I would put it ahead of college volleyball as well. I wish that I had covered it more, but that's definitely going to be something that I fix moving forward, especially with the success that Trisha Ford had with the program. But you're going to see a lot of players enter the transfer portal now as well. So, and I believe 3 players have already entered the portal, if I'm not mistaken. And it's more than likely that you're going to see more and more Arizona State Sun Devil softball players now enter the transfer portal. Trisha Ford coming off a 43-11 season where she was 20-4 in the conference. Just wildly successful. And here's the thing, to play devil's advocate, tongue in cheek here, talking about the Sun Devils, of course. Going to the SEC is always going to be a really, really good grab for anyone. And the opportunity to coach at Texas A&M is something that Trisha Ford would be very hard pressed to pass on. And no one can really blame her for taking advantage of that. But it's just so unfortunate that Trisha now goes into that category of like the ones who got away for Arizona State. Because remember, you lost, and this is way, way long ago, but John Cooper left Arizona State to go to Ohio State. And you've lost the volleyball head coach, who I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. Jason Watson left the program to go to Arkansas. I mean, Arizona State has lost a lot of quality coaches over the course of its history, but 2 of those coaches have been during the Ray Anderson era, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. But before we really dive into the meat and the potatoes here of this episode, I mean, why is the softball the breaking point here? Because I know that a lot of people are probably more focused on the football program or even the basketball program than they are the softball program. So why are we starting, or not so much starting, but really getting the ball rolling on this conversation that we're going to have today about Ray Anderson potentially being moved on from the or not the podcast, from the program? It's because the softball team was your most successful sports program that you had at the university right now. You have a very good wrestling program, but the rest is just so underachieving. And I say that as an ASU alum and someone who will go to bat for that program until the day I die. But if we're calling a spade here, it's just not been the greatest tenure that ASU has seen with their athletic directors. And it's not for a lack of trying. Ray Anderson has been with the team since 2014, or school, I should say. He's been with the school since 2014. So he's going into his ninth season as the athletic director for all the programs that Arizona State has. And Arizona State is a Power 5 school, and they've got a team in everything. They got a hockey team, for crying out loud, which for what it's worth is also underachieved. They have one winning record since they started up in like 2015, 2016, somewhere in that ballpark. All of the teams have underachieved except the softball program. The softball program has thrived for Arizona State. Even when Ray Anderson first got here in 2014, Craig Nicholson was the head coach, and they made the NCAA regional both years with winning records. They move on to Robert Wagner and Letty Olivarez. Letty Olivarez, again, winning record. And then they go to Trisha Ford. Wildly great success. And you're taking away that success, and you're going to be taking away some really good players from that program too. And it's got me sitting here wondering, what's going to be the state of ASU softball moving forward? I understand that it's not football. I understand it's not basketball. And it's not the sport that everyone is talking the talk about. It's not what, is popping up on your Twitter feed as much as those programs. But this is your most successful sport, was softball, by a considerable margin. You were very close to making it to the World Series bracket this year. And unfortunately, you didn't. And now Trisha Ford is gone. So what's going to be the state of Arizona State sports right now? We're looking at Ray Anderson, and we have these dire questions. We're wondering, what is your plan? Well, right now we don't know. Trisha Ford left the program last week. We're sitting here now trying to figure out what we're supposed to do. Let's go ahead and hop into our first break here. When we return, we're going to go ahead and continue this conversation about Ray Anderson, and this time more specifically focusing on what's gone wrong during his stint here as the Arizona State Sun Devils athletic director. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL Conference Finals, Major League Baseball, and of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you guys again so much for making the Locked On Sun Devils your first listen every day. The Ultimate NBA Mock Draft starts June 16th with over 50 insiders. With over 50 insiders, nothing equals the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft. The Locked On NBA Big Board, draft experts, plus the Odyssey listeners. First pick is June 16th. Search Ultimate NBA Mock Draft and follow now so you don't miss a pick. Let's hop back into our conversation. Ray Anderson. So what all has gone wrong during Ray Anderson's tenure? Since 2014, so 8 full years, going into 9 seasons worth of framework is the way I'll put it. You've seen 2 head coaches for the football program. In that time frame, you have you have a winning record. It's just not something to write home about. You have one 10-win season. Other than that, you have 2 8-win seasons. Your 2020 season was cut wildly short from COVID, and that's something we'll get into in a little bit. So the program has not been the best during his time. It's been okay, right? It's been good. It's not been great. It's ranked occasionally, but it hasn't been the program that we were hoping it would be. Basketball, 1 winning season, 2 winning seasons, excuse me. Well, no, in his tenure, it would be 1 winning season because that other winning season would have been 2013, 2014. So in his time frame, no, I guess I was right. Wow, I can't count it all. 1, 2, 3, 4 winning seasons. You only have 1 outstanding season though, which was 2018, 2019, which is where you went 23-11 and you were able to actually make the tournament for the first time since the 2013, 2014 season, but you lost in the first round. 2017, 2018, you went 20-12, but lost in the first 4, didn't even make the final bracket. Baseball has been successful under the watch of Ray Anderson. You've only had 1 losing season, which was this year, in which the team ended up going 26-31. But this was also a brand new year for the team. You were replacing a lot of talent, including the number 1 overall pick. Spencer Torkelson was the number 1 overall pick in Major League Baseball last year. You were having to replace him. You had a new head coach coming in the form of Willie Bloomquist. You had a very, very good program going with softball that we already talked about in the previous segment. Volleyball, underachieving. In the time that Anderson has been here, Jason Watson had 2 winning seasons in 2014 and 2015 before he left the program to go to Arkansas. After that, you have 1 year of Stevie Moosey, goes 12-20, gone after that year. And then Sanja Tomasevic, I believe is how you say that, but I probably butchered it, has 1 winning season in her 5 years as the head coach for the program. So again, underachieving for the volleyball. Overall, when you're looking at the framework here, you have a strength with baseball, a strength with softball. Again, softball, in my opinion, probably the 3rd best sport in college sports. Baseball, hit or miss. No pun intended. Basketball, you've underachieved. Basketball is undoubtedly the 2nd strongest college sport there is, and with the most intense playoffs that you can imagine. You've made the bracket once in that time frame. Football, you have not had this great success. Your best bowl game appearances were the Vegas Bowl. You made it twice, you lost it twice. You managed to go 2-1 in the Sun Devil Bowl, for what that's worth, but you also missed the bowl games twice. So starting off there, it's just been a very underachieving stint for Ray Anderson. Diving more into it, I mean, it starts and ends with football, with all the COVID violations that were going on. And we're not going to pretend that Ray Anderson didn't know what was going on with the recruiting violations that were going on during the COVID protocols that were being ignored by the team and by the coaches and the scouts and the some of the players and their parents. I remember Jayden Daniels' mom had a little bit of a thing going on there. So you've had a massive scandal that you're going to get slammed by from the NCAA for the actions, the violations, and the decisions that the program decided to make. You're going to get slammed. I don't know how hard. At this point, I have to imagine it's going to be a pretty significant penalty. And because of that, you've watched 17 players leave your program. 17 in like a 6-month period. Little over 6 months. Something like that. Because June is the 6th month. So like 6 to 8 months, somewhere in that range, you have lost 17 players. You are going into this year with a completely different team, almost entirely like fresh, brand new. There is not a lot of continuity coming back. And you lost big time players that we've talked about plenty of times. Eric Gentry, Jermayne Lole, Jayden Daniels, Ricky Pearsall, Ship Trayanum, all gone to the transfer portal. Your football program is going to be in a one of the most pivotal seasons that they've had in a long, long time. And I don't know if there's going to be a way for you to survive it. We'll see. The basketball program, we've talked plenty of times before. This isn't a team that we're anticipating to compete for national championships, but we should be making the bracket. You've made it once since 2014, all in the Bobby Hurley era, with the lone exception of the 2014-2015 season being Herb Sendick. Other than that, it's all been Bobby Hurley, and it's all been underachieving and underwhelming. Again, in that time frame, he has 3 winning seasons and 1 appearance in the playoff. Other than that, the closest he got was the first 4 and didn't make it. So again, we're not sitting here like you need to be winning national championships, but you need to be making the bracket, and you're not doing that. Underachieving. Baseball, we haven't made a World Series since the goodness gracious. When was the last time we won a World Series? Like 2010, I believe. It's been a minute since we won the World Series. No, it's been longer than that. Neither here nor there. You've made the regionals plenty of times, but you have not actually made it to the World Series, since 2010. And you didn't win it that year. It's been a long, long time since you won a World Series. 1981 is the last time you won a World Series. And this is a program that historically is a very good baseball program. Again, you made the regionals plenty of times, but you never got past that. You never got to the Super Regionals. You never got to the World Series bracket. You never won a World Series. This is where we are talking about you need to be contending for championships. This is a sport where you should be contending. Same with softball. You should be contending for World Series championships. And you won a World Series championship back in 2011 with Clint Myers. So since then, Clint Myers moved on. I do not remember where he ended up going, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But other than that, Trisha Ford was so close. And it's hard to believe that she wouldn't have been able to get you over that hump. But now you'll never know. You'll never know. That it's another sport that you are expected to compete for national champions in. Baseball and softball. You weren't able to do it. You weren't able to get far enough. Trisha Ford had the best chance to get you there. You were this close to making the bracket. This close. And it's gone. Who knows what's going to happen? You're probably going to lose a lot of these young ladies to the transfer portal, and good for them. They should. This is potentially going to be like a makeup year for the team. Volleyball, take it or leave it. We've never been a dominant program, at least not since the Patty Snyder Park era from the 90s into the very early 2000s. Other than that, just losing seasons year after year. But nonetheless, it's not acceptable. You need to put together winning seasons. You need to put together a program that's worth watching. And unfortunately, the volleyball team has not been able to put out consistent winning seasons. Since Jason Watson left back in 2015, which was right when Ray Anderson got here, you have 1 winning season since then. That was 2019. There's just so much underachieving. And now, unfortunately, you have a scandal that's on top of it here for the football program. So what's gone wrong in the Ray Anderson era? You've not met expectations, and you're making headlines in the wrong way. So that's 2 things, 2 huge things. Who knows what the third is? When's the other shoe going to drop? Maybe it's at the end of the year. Maybe you see the football team fall off, and unfortunately, because football is the most popular sport in America, and that's where all the fans pay the most attention to and give their money, maybe that's the the final line in the sand. The straw that broke the camel's back is going to end up being like a losing season for the football program. But who knows? Maybe Ray Anderson gets another break. I think that his tenure with the program has been a little elongated. He's been with the team for a very, very long time. Before him, you had a very short stint of Steve Patterson from 2012 to 2013, and then Lisa Love was with us from 2005 to 2012. So I mean, he's definitely been one of your like longest tenured athletic directors in the history of the program. Looking back years and years ago, I mean, it goes back to a Charles Harris back in the 80s and 90s. Anderson has had more than enough time, so the leash should be short. Let's go ahead and break out that conversation real quick. When we return for the final segment, we're going to talk about pretty much where do we go from here with Ray Anderson. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. And one more time, thank you guys so much for making the Locked On Sun Devils your first listen every day. Go ahead and make your second listen the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Rafael Barlow, Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin give fans an in-depth look into the biggest prospects, latest player rankings, and, of course, big boards. Follow the Locked On NBA Big Board every day on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So where do we go from here? Let's put a bow on this and call it good. Where do you go from here? I don't know. I think it starts with pretty much saying you're on the hot seat. Like, this is the year. That's where it should start, is making it very clear to Ray Anderson. We can no longer tolerate any kind of subpar success that these programs are putting out. Take away the success. Look at the exodus that you are dealing with. It's not just football anymore. It's in softball. It's probably going to end up coming to baseball. Ethan Long was transferring, remember. You're also going to be dealing with the loss of Jalen Graham on the basketball program. He's gone. He transferred. There are significant losses coming to the team across the board from all the different sports. It's not just the football program. Who knows what's going to happen to your other programs? Is the softball program going to end up being in a huge rebuilding stage? Who knows? But you lose a quality, not even quality, like a high caliber coach in Trisha Ford. It's going to be hard to come back from. Baseball. This was a down year. This was your first losing season since a long time. A long time. Like, goodness gracious, I can't even find the last time you had a losing season. It has been that good of a baseball program. You had 1 year in 2017 where you were 23-32. Other than that, I mean, just winning record after winning record. Who knows what's going on with the baseball program? I don't know if I'm truly all in on Willie Bloomquist. It's a great story. Former Arizona State player, played in the major leagues for a little while. I don't know if I'm really all in on Willie Bloomquist or not. I guess we'll see. We'll find out. Volleyball, it's got to get turned around. I don't know what the answer is there, but you got to figure something out. Basketball, at what point are we done settling for mediocrity? At what point do we sit here and go, you know what? I think it's time to just move on. Just, as I have said many a times, and I have said on this podcast, call a spade a spade. Bobby Hurley is the epitome of settling for mediocrity. It's something I've said before. It's something I will continue to say. Bobby, I love your passion. I love that you have kept us average. You have not done what we wanted you to do. And let's not forget, it was a few years into his stint here that he was getting conversation for going to big name programs to be head coaches for them. He's an afterthought, to put it gently, in the college basketball landscape right now. I don't know what it's going to take to get him out of here at this point. because it feels like losing is not enough. It feels like underachieving, where you should be dominating, is not enough. Right now, it feels like losing your students is not enough. And I understand sports aren't everything, but that's what I'm here to talk about. That's what you guys are here to listen to. So at what point is Michael Crow going to sit here and look at the athletic program and say, you know what? We are not giving our students, we are not giving our alumnus, we are not giving our fans, we're not giving our players the best situations to come into. We're not providing for them what we should be able to provide for them. At some point, you have to look at Ray Anderson and you have to realize that it's time for a changing of the guard. And I'm sorry, I know that you're going to have a lot of people who will argue the logic of better the evil you know than the evil you don't. I get that. But right now, it's time for a clean slate. I'm not ready to say you need to fire Ray Anderson definitively. But it is a very important conversation that you need to be having. At a minimum, that seat should be red hot. But let's go ahead and call a very passionate podcast done for the day. Thank you guys so much for making the Locked On Sun Devils your first listen every day. Remember, we're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, if you want to check us out there. Wherever you get your podcast, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we have a new podcast. If you're on Twitter, make sure that you follow me there at RichieBrads36 and follow the podcast wire there as well at LO_Sun Devils. And until next time, guys, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.